So I asked Father Steve before we began if he's ever celebrated Mass at the altar where a man who used to celebrate Mass was martyred, because this is the first place that ever happened for me a set of years ago. Just give you what I mean by that. So in a moment we're going to hear, as we always hear at Mass in the words of consecration, take this, all of you, and eat of it, for this is my body, which is given up for you. And this is my blood, which will be poured out for you. Jesus' words, of course. And yet, Blessed Jerzy not only said those words, he actually did those things. He offered up his body, and his blood was poured out for the people that he cared so greatly for here in Poland. And I'll be curious to talk to my brother afterwards, because I can just tell you that it's a rather overwhelming experience to stand at that altar and know that he not only said those words, but did those things. But I would suggest they're actually really significant words for all of us, not just for priests. When Jesus says in the words of consecration, do this in memory of me, he doesn't mean say Mass a lot, although he certainly instituted the Mass. He meant to do out there what it is that we make present in here. And so undoubtedly, here we are, day one on a pilgrimage, and no matter what's going on the outside, there's a whole set of things going on the inside with not just some of us, but all of us, right? Perhaps some of us who are married, there'll be a particular grace being here today, and then being at the City of the Immaculata tomorrow with St. Maximilian Kolbe, where again it's the altar where a man who was martyred celebrated Mass. So we're going to be around these places, and maybe some of us are struggling right now just pouring out our lives for our husband or our wife. Or maybe we're having challenges with family members. Or maybe we're just struggling with whatever it is that's in our life that we know we need the Lord to reach in, grab, and transform. So there's a grace here. Catch it. I know we're tired, but catch it. Call upon, there's the beauty of the communion of saints, call upon the intercession of Blessed Jerzy today and of St. Maximilian tomorrow, so that we won't just be spectators here, as we often say at church. We'll be active participants. We'll be eager to do, not just around this altar, but in our daily life, what it is that Jesus is not simply telling us to do, but empowering us to do. Because grace is power. That's what it is. It transforms us, enables us to do things which on our own we can't do. Just a second really quick thought. These are just the readings for the day, but it struck me that they end, at least this first reading, with Paul saying, "For freedom, Christ set us free." Got a picture again, this church packed with thousands of people living under the thumb of the Soviet Union and the Communist Empire. Brutality, arrests, threat of torture. But notice what Paul says. It sounds like an odd expression. For freedom, Christ set us free. Jerzy could have been here rousing the people to take up arms. Those of us who are old enough to remember communism, which isn't all of us, it's a astonishing, isn't it, that this is just a footnote in history? Like, I grew up with it. We all did. Or most of us did. But the Soviet Empire is in a history book now. It's not to say what's going on in Russia is insignificant, but the Soviet Empire is in a history book right now. Without a shot being fired. Because men like Jersey, in places like this, said to the people, the response to their oppression is not oppression. Their response to their violence cannot be violence. The response to their hatred cannot be hatred. And tomorrow when we get to the City of the Immaculata and we reflect on St. Maximilian Kolbe's life, we're just confronted by this extraordinary man who, like Jersey, reminded the people the only legitimate response, even when we're angry, is love. Which is what God's mercy is all about in this year that's about to end. Does God get angry? Absolutely. But his anger is always an expression of his love. He doesn't throw tantrums, nor can I, nor can you. So again, aware of those tensions that we have inside of us, those things that cause us to want to lash out at things that we see that are unjust, wrong. It's easy just to think of what's going on with our own country right now in the election. Here we are at the altar of a man who kept pointing us to Jesus, saying, remember who you are. Remember whose you are. Remember the one to whom we belong. Remember what is never an option for us. The word that comes to mind is meek. It's the only word Jesus ever uses to describe his own character. Jesus is meek. He's strong, but always under control. Everything he does out of love. So as we begin our pilgrimage, maybe we can ask the intercession of Jersey and St. John Paul II to pray for us, that the Lord will just help us to be ever more in control, always loving, and especially that we would be eager to do out there in our lives with each other, starting with our families or our communities, what it is that Jesus is about to say as we gather around the altar for the Eucharist. This is my body, which will be given up for you. May we give up our lives for each other.